Welcome, everyone. This is Jim Spora with ISSIP, the International Society of Service Innovation Professionals, and I'm happy to introduce Joy Field, who is not only a professor at Boston College, but a longtime contributor to our book series with Business Expert Press. In fact, the fourth edition of her book just came out, and I'm sure Joy will tell us a little bit about it because it's loaded with examples of the digital transformation of retail. But first, Joy, if you could you just introduce yourself a little bit to the ISIP community?
Sure. Thank you, Jim. So I am Joy Field. I am a professor of operations management at Boston College. This is my 28th year at Boston College, so I've been here quite a long time. Yeah. So the work that I've been doing, I actually was originally a manufacturing person, but I transitioned to services a long time ago. And so the work that I do is around digital transformation of services. In particular, something I've been working on recently is how humans and technology working together can create synergies and what the process is for that actually occurring. So it could be through self-service. It could be about the frontline employees and their use of technology to provide services. But what Jim was referring to, the book that's now in my fourth edition, which is just coming out, it's called Designing Service Processes to Unlock Value. And the book is about how services have really changed over time. Service delivery has changed over time, in particular through the use of technology, some of which is self-service, some of which is, again, technologies throughout the service process, and also this concept of service inventory that was introduced quite a few years ago now. But we've really taken it, colleagues and I in this book have taken it and developed it more to try to really understand how all that data that everyone's collecting about you and about the processes is being used to make the processes better, make the processes less expensive, make the processes more frictionless, all sorts of good sorts of things like that. And of course, we all know the downsides of all the data that's being collected about us as well.
Right, absolutely. That's interesting that you started in manufacturing and you switched over to service. And of course, the question I've got to ask is, if you look back at the history of retail and think about you're in the fourth edition of your book, so I think it's interesting maybe for the ISIP community to hear about what were some of the first big players like maybe Amazon and uh, Airbnb, I guess, in hospitality, but Amazon and retail. What have you seen the biggest transformation, historical things in the digital transformation of retail, Joy?
Yeah, so what I'm seeing are things like so take Amazon, right? Because they're obviously the exemplar of e-commerce from quite a long time ago. And the efforts, I think, in retail to make the processes as seamless as possible, yet figure out how to create an experience for the customers, right?
Mhm.
So Amazon, they do have some retail, but they're really backing off on their in-person retail types of offerings and doubling down on their online offerings, which is obviously the bulk of their business. But they're getting rid of Amazon Go stores, they're getting rid of Amazon 4-star stores, they're getting rid of, really quite a bit, Amazon books, right? All those sorts of things. And I think the reason they got into it in the first place was to give customers an opportunity to have the part of the experience that you wouldn't have if you were just in e-commerce, which is the actual opportunity to see and touch the merchandise, experience it before you buy it. So I think that's been a trend that we're seeing over time, is to figure out what's that balance, right? How do we actually make this a good process and a good experience for customers? And so before this interview, I was talking to Jim about some of the innovations that have been going on more recently, including things like creating digital twins of retail warehouses, of the actual retail space, selling space itself. And an example that I've recently used in class is what Lowe's has done in terms of trying to use a digital twin to better lay out their stores. What kinds of products do customers buy together? How can we reduce the amount of walking that they have to do in the store? How can we improve the experience for the sales associates, right, to try to be able to better help the customers. And so these are the sorts of things that I've been seeing over time, from this pure digital experience to using technology to try to make the experience better for both the customers and the people who work in these stores, by implementing technologies such as digital twins. Crate and Barrel has a digital twin of their flagship store in New York City, and you can walk through the store as if you were walking through their flagship in New York, and discover things as you're going through, as opposed to the search function that an Amazon has, right? You have to know what you're looking for, as opposed to you just happen upon things when you're walking through a store, and efforts to try to recreate that sort of experience, but in an online version. So I'm seeing this omni-channel integration that's being really ramped up through using technologies like digital twins and other technologies as well.
Yeah, digital twins are very exciting, and I'm looking forward to seeing more work on digital twins. I'm wondering if you, Joy, in just the few minutes we have here today, how do you see industry academic collaboration in this in digital transformation? Do you see it just primarily industry off doing their own thing, and an academic coming in later and studying it, or do you see other kinds of possibilities in industry academic collaboration? Just
Yeah,
curious.
so oftentimes that's how it works, right? Industry does the cool stuff, and then we come in and study it and say, yep, that's pretty cool, right? And
Yeah.
so the question, I think, is, can we have a more maybe robust type of collaboration, as opposed to just us looking at things after the fact? And I see that I'm in a department that's actually business analytics. I'm an operations person, but many of my colleagues are from the IT area. So that's what our department is about, is really this hybrid of operations and IT. And what I see with my IT colleagues in particular is they're very, very immersed in the details of the technology and how these technologies can really help from an operational perspective. They're looking at privacy issues. They're looking at all sort of protection of your data, and how those things can be done. We just had a conference at BC around cybersecurity, and it was absolutely fascinating to see what the industry people were up to and what the academics were up to, and how really they're collaborating together now. So many of us are working directly with industry to try to understand what the issues are, to try to help with that. As I had mentioned earlier to you, a project that, and also here, a project that I'm working on is how to really understand how humans and technologies work together to actually create synergies, and the process by which that would happen. And so I think in that sense, sort of a basic science or basic processes, we have a lot to say from the academic side, and opportunities to collaborate to try to see how can we implement these ideas, and how can we work productively with industry to do that as well.
Yeah,
And then, of
that's
course, study what they're doing, right? So we can
right.
publish in our journals.
So tell me a little bit about the data then, about this these synergy projects. What kind of data do you collect and analyze?
So the synergy project that I'm working on is primarily conceptual at this point.
Okay.
And so the paper that we've got that's hopefully near to publication, of course, it's in the process right now, is about what does that process look like? How do companies choose which technologies they're going to implement? This is in particular at the front lines. So the employees, what technologies they'll be using as part of their processes to help the customers excuse me, themselves have better experiences, and lower costs, and whatever it is that you're trying to achieve. And
Hmm.
so the idea with this model is to think about what types of technologies make sense, how do they match to the capabilities of the service providers, how do they match to the capabilities of the customers. I do a lot of work on self-service technologies and why they work, why they don't work. I personally just had a bad experience at the checkout in the grocery store last night. I
Oh.
thought I had paid for my goods. I got a receipt, and then it turns out there was some glitch in the system, and someone chased me out in the parking lot. So it's this kind of stuff. Yeah, yeah, yeah. She says, you didn't pay for your goods. I said, well, I have a receipt right here. So anyway, so Long story, but it all
Probably
worked out.
good.
I paid. It was all good. They didn't think I was stealing anything, so that was good.
Right.
They didn't call the police, so that was it was a good outcome. It was a good outcome. But the point there is, you really need, when you implement these technologies, people need to know how to use them
Right.
and how to use them productively, right? And especially when you've got customers involved, right? You're asking people who aren't trained at all on these technologies to use them, and you get people like me who mess things up at the self-service checkout, even though I've used it a million times, right? And so I look at these sorts of processes and how those synergies can be created, and how the choice of technologies can be matched to the capabilities
Yeah.
of the users, and then how we can improve the capabilities of the users to better match to the technologies. And so these are the sorts of things I'm looking at. But of course, there's tremendous opportunities then to collect data to see how that's actually working, in particular over time. We see this all the time with self-service technologies and how they've changed and improved over time. This idea of the cash, the checkout, right? At the grocery store is one that I've been looking at since the first edition of my book. And
Yeah.
the technology has changed so much as the providers and the people at the grocery stores, who are the consumers of these technologies, understand how customers use them, what their pain points are, how we can alleviate those pain points, and those sorts of things. So these are many of the changes that I'm seeing over time, is really trying to understand how the users use these technologies and how they can be improved either on the user side or the technology side to be better.
Fantastic. Well, let's look forward to our October 30th panel, and let's get a picture of your book on your slides for that panel discussion, because I think
Absolutely.
there's going to be a lot of interest in that. ISSIP does promote the Business Expert Press book series, and so it'll be great to have you on that panel, Joy. Look forward to talking to you more then with the other panelists. We'll have Haluk Demirkan from Amazon. He's one of our board members at ISSIP. Um, and really grateful. Thank you, Joy, for this short interview, and looking forward to talking to you more on the panel. Let me go ahead and stop the recording.
All right. Thank you, Jim. Looking forward to this.
Great.